Hello there, my very good friends, and on today's post-Backlash news video, we're going to talk about the Attitude Era hero and former WWE title holder who returned at Backlash last night. We're also going to talk about Bad Bunny maybe having the best celebrity match ever. From there, we have a backstage update on the Backlash main event, and after all of that, a big update on Drew McIntyre's WWE future. I'm Andy Murray, not Andrew Pollard. That fine gentleman is off once again, so I'm afraid you're stuck with me and an inflatable microphone and this image of Bad Bunny that is probably a bit too bright for this screen, but hey, it's okay. It's Sunday. We're going to get through it. Let's start off by talking about the returns on Backlash last night. What a fun pay-per-view across the board. One of the main reasons for that was Bad Bunny versus Damian Priest, which we'll get to in a minute. But a fixture of that match, one of the most important components of that match that made it so fun, were the returns of Carlito and Savio Vega, who hasn't been seen on WWE television since I had hair. I mean, that's not too long ago, actually, but you know what I mean. A long time, right? Obviously, both of those fine gentlemen are from Puerto Rico, which is where the show was last night. The crowd was insane for SmackDown and Backlash. But they both returned in the match between Bad Bunny and Damian Priest. Although Savio Vega was involved earlier on as well, he was backstage, he gave a kendo stick to Bad Bunny that he then used on Priest in the match, but that wasn't his only involvement, no. So during the match, inevitably, because it's a street fight and heels are heels, the Judgment Day interfered. Finn Balor and Dominic Mysterio came down to beat up Bad Bunny. Rey Mysterio tried to come down and help, but he too was subdued. And then, hey, the music hits, and here comes Carlito to just a crazy pop, as you'd expect. In Puerto Rico, when you're Carlito and you've been away for a long time, it's going to be a good time. He came down, he hit a backstabber, he did the apple thing, he ended up spitting it in Dominic's face. And a short while later, those rapscallions, Dominic Mysterio, I almost called him Dominic Priest, Dominic Mysterio and Finn Balor tried to escape, but who emerged on the ramp? The Puerto Rican wrestling icon himself, Savio Vega. He's got the LWO shirt on, and he ends up getting physical. He throws a bunch of chops, throws the roundhouse kick on Finn Balor, which gave me a big nostalgia pop, and Balor and Dom ran to the back, running scared. Afterwards, they celebrated in the ring with the LWO. Oh yeah, the LWO were there as well. I should mention that because they were incredibly over as well, and they're one of the most fun stables in WWE. They were called out from the back by Savio Vega before he started throwing chops. What a fun time this whole thing was across the board. Now, Carlito hasn't been in WWE since early 2021. He was in that Royal Rumble, and then he was on the Raw afterwards, working a tag match, but that didn't translate into a permanent comeback or anything like that. He is, however, still a wrestler. He's on the indies. He's all over the place. 44 years old. It still seems quite young to me. Feels like he's been gone forever, but hey, there you go. And Savio Vega, of course, best known for his time in WWE during the New Generation and Attitude eras. He, of course, had a very famous feud with Steve Austin, kind of before Stone Cold became the biggest thing in the universe. So, there you go. Couple of iconic returns. It's just a great time. This is what you do, man. Like, when you're in a place that has a bunch of synonymous stars and you can get some nostalgia pops, get those nostalgia pops. It's great. Speaking of great, Bad Bunny versus Damian Priest. Good grief, this was a good time. So the question I want to ask you guys today, and I guess this isn't really a story, it's more of a discussion point, but it's in a story number 2. Was this the greatest celebrity wrestling match of all time? Now, keep in mind that's a question. I'm not necessarily sure that that's my opinion yet. But hey, let's consider it. I think a lot of people, particularly younger fans, would consider Roman Reigns versus Logan Paul the best celebrity match of all time from last year. And yeah, I mean, that was absolutely incredible as well. It was a great time. I would not argue that pick whatsoever. Old fogies like me might go, maybe it's Bam Bam versus Lawrence Taylor, or maybe it's the WrestleMania 1 main event. I mean, on a pure match quality standpoint, those two don't quite stack up, but historical significance, all of that stuff. And of course, Priest and Bad Bunny versus Miz and Morrison a couple of years ago was great too. The working standard for celebrity matches these days is really high. It's bit unfair on the celebrities, really. You've got to be awesome now, but that's the level we're at with people like Bad Bunny and Logan Paul, who are just great at this. They're just great wrestlers. Bad Bunny won last night. He beat Priest after hitting sliced bread number 2. Bad Bunny was awesome in this, man. Like, Falcon Arrows, Michinoku drivers, taking big bumps, selling, doing all kinds of crazy jumps and leaps and stuff, going off the top rope. And Priest should get a pat on the back for his efforts as well. Of course, he's the part-timer. Here's the guy who's there every week. He's the guy tasked primarily, carrying is too strong a word, I think, in this match, because that undermines Bad Bunny's performance, but leading the less experienced man through the match. Priest did a great job, and you should probably get a big reward out of this, because he was just awesome. But yeah, what do you guys think? Was this the best celebrity wrestling match of all time? I think it's certainly in the conversation. I mean, it's definitely a bit of recency bias, because the match only finished about 6 hours ago. But yeah, just an all-time box of popcorn style match. Fireworks, smoke and mirrors, bit of substance to it as well, with a story between Priest and Bad Bunny being former friends and partners. Awesome. What more could you possibly want? WWE is at its best when it's big and silly. And this match was big and silly. You know who likes big silly things? This guy. I watched The Expendables 2 last night. Of course I like big silly things. Anyway, let's move on a little bit. Talk about the main event of the night, which was Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar. Cody Rhodes getting the win over Brock Lesnar, who had him in a Kimura, but then got rolled to the mat and pinned, and Cody ran away, kind of. He didn't really ran away, but you survive the beast, don't you? He's a scary man. He kind of got out of harm's way before Brock could go on another 10-minute rampage like he did on Raw a few weeks ago. Fair play, if you ask me. I'd have ran away before the bell rang, to be honest, so Cody's more of a man than I am. So, more of a tattoo than I am as well. What does that even mean? That's not even a sentence. But I want to cover this report on Fightful Select because coming out of the show, if there was one dampener, maybe. I mean, I thought this was an awesome pay-per-view, but yeah, I've seen a few people going, hey, why did this main event? Why didn't Bad Bunny versus Damian Priest main event? That was a better vibe. You know, obviously the hometown stuff is great. You had the LWO celebrating with them afterwards, Savio Vega, Carlito. Just great vibes, great energy. Pop the crowd like nothing else. Why didn't that main event? Well, Fightful Select note, I don't have a reason for you, by the way, but Fightful Select note that there was a lot of back and forth over what should have main evented the show, and in the end they've gone with Cody. Maybe, and this is me editorializing, this isn't part of the report, but maybe they still have eyes on building him up to a world title level. Maybe they still see him at that level. Maybe that's why they put him in there. Also, Brock's a big star, so I guess these things probably factored into the conversation. I can't imagine the Bad Bunny versus Damian Priest wasn't an option. They just didn't go with it. Fightful Select note as well that WWE were, unsurprisingly, extremely happy with Bad Bunny versus Priest. I mean, if you were unhappy with that match, you hate fun. I'm only joking. You're allowed to like different things from everyone else. That's totally fine, but you do hate fun. What am I doing? Let's move on to our final story on this video. Let's talk about Drew McIntyre a little bit. His future has been the subject of intense speculation and reporting recently, since the report that his contract is going to expire a little bit sooner than people thought, early 2024 it seems. Since that story came out, there's been all kinds of stuff about him. He's been absent since WrestleMania 39, where of course he had that just ridiculous, incredible, hard-hitting match with Gunther and Sheamus for the IC title. Dave Meltzer reported in the Wrestling Observer newsletter still this week, that Drew was working with the mindset that there is at least a chance he might end up leaving the company. Now, Fightful Select have come through with a new report, noting that while there have been rumors that Drew is leaning towards leaving WWE, it's more accurate to say that at the moment, he just doesn't know what's going to happen. Now, if the relationship between Drew and WWE isn't working out later on, McIntyre is more than willing to explore other options with a view to maybe coming back, leaving the door open to return to WWE some other day. At the moment, however, he is quite banged up. He's got a few injuries he needs to heal, but he was determined to get through WrestleMania, and it's a good job he did because that match was really sick. But obviously, look after yourself, Andrew. We got the same name. We got to look out for each other. Yeah, okay, that's how it works. Now, there's some other interesting bits and pieces in here as well. It's noted that Drew has had a little bit of frustration, however, due to not being on the same page as WWE in some situations lately. He's usually told about his draft plans in advance, but this year, that didn't happen. He learned he was being drafted to Raw as it was announced on TV, rather than being informed beforehand. And there have been some other perceived miscommunications between Drew and WWE in recent years. It's noted too that Drew can be quite hands-on with his creative. There will be pitches for him to return as a heel when he does come back to WWE television, but people expect a little bit of pushback for that, and that they expect that Drew will want it to make sense creatively. McIntyre apparently doesn't like making huge changes unless it makes creative sense, which I think is very fair, and I like seeing a wrestler take a bit of agency. like that. So yeah, I mean, Drew's future is going to be a big topic going forward. Look, I've tweeted about this a bunch of times, so if you follow me on there, you'll be familiar with my take. But if you don't, it's pretty straightforward. I think that Drew McIntyre is absolutely awesome. I think that if he stays in WWE, he will continue to be absolutely awesome, whether it's as a babyface, as a heel. I'd like to see him as a heel for a bit, maybe as a babyface. Gotten a little bit stale, character-wise, not his fault. It just happens sometimes. So, hey, if he sticks around, I'm happy. But you know what? If he leaves as well, I'm also happy because Drew McIntyre kicks ass, and so does Drew Galloway. His previous run, post-WWE run, where he went back to the Indies, showed up in ICW, went to Evolve, all these great places, WCPW, of course. Got to get that one in. It was incredible. He rebuilt himself physically, mentally, as a wrestler. He just crafted himself into this humongous, awesome megastar of a boy that he just didn't quite hit in his first run in WWE. It was transformative, and if he leaves again, I have no doubt that he will kick all kinds of ass elsewhere as well. He'd be great in AEW. He'd be great in a G1 Climax for New Japan or as a full-time roster member. He'd be phenomenal on the indies. Wherever Drew goes, he's gonna rule. This guy's still quite young as well. He's like mid-30s or something, so like theoretically still has a lot left in the tank. I think that Drew McIntyre is sick. How many times do I have to say I like this guy? And he'll make the best decision for himself. I'm absolutely sure of that. I don't think he'll be afraid to leave if he thinks that's the best move. And I look forward to whatever he does next, regardless of what that may be. But let us know what you think down in the comments. Do you want to see Drew freshen it up a little bit, go somewhere else, maybe find a new spark in another company? Or do you want him to stick around and just keep being a badass in WWE? Both of them are good options, man. There's no losers here. It's a good time. Well, I guess the loser is the company that doesn't end up with Drew, because why wouldn't you want him? But yeah, good. Anyway, more Scottish wrestlers winning stuff. That's nice. Okay, sure, I need someone to host these videos with me. That much is evident. But hey, thank you for joining me for this one. No questions today. We're on a bit of a tight schedule today with some people being off and stuff, but they'll be back tomorrow. Don't worry, that'll be a solo news video. Me on my own, no editing. It's gonna be weird, but we enjoy that time. Follow us on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE, and you can follow me on Twitter at Andy H. Murray. The H stands for Have a Nice Sunday. See you later.